Good morning, students. Myself, Dr. Himmat Singh Chavra, Associate Professor in School of Pharmacy, Suresh Gyan Vihar University, Jaipur. In lecture series of Physical Pharmaceutics 1, today we have to discuss the unit surface and interfacial phenomena. The topic of today's discussion is surface free energy, measurement of surface and interfacial tensions, and spreading coefficient. So this is the topic of today's lecture, and the unit is our surfacial and interfacial phenomena. The objectives of today's lecture are as follows: to study about the surface free energy, then to learn about the methods for measurement of surface and interfacial tensions, and then to study spreading coefficient and its importance in pharmacy. These are the objectives of today's lecture. After completion of the lecture, learning outcomes are as follows. Students will be able to know about the surface free energy and methods for measurement of superficial and interfacial tension of different substances. And after completion of this lecture, the student may be able to acquire knowledge about the spreading coefficient and its importance in pharmacy. So, as we discussed in our previous lecture, what is surface tension? So, surface tension is the force per unit length. The unit of surface tension is Dyne per centimeter. So, the molecules which are situated on the interface or surface, they feel is force or attraction or a tension. This is defined as superficial tension or interfacial tension, which can be expressed by F by L, force per length, and the unit of this expression will be Dyne per centimeter or Newton per meter. Now, after the superficial tension or interfacial tension, one very important term which is related with this is the free surface energy of interfacial layer. First, we see the definition of the. So, because the molecules at the interface is in unbalanced attractive force, so it's already we know there are two type of forces. One is the force of cohesion between the like molecules, and another one is the force of adhesion between the unlike molecules. So there will be the unbalanced attractive force on the molecules which are situated at the surface or interface. So a certain amount of work is required to move a molecule from within the body of the liquid to the interface, and this work is referred to as the surface free energy. So when we want to move the molecule from inside the liquid or bulk of the liquid to the surface of the liquid, we have to do some work, and the work is referred as free surface energy. So surface free energy is simply defined as the work required to increase the area of a liquid by 1 square centimeter. So the unit of surface free energy will be a similar like the energy. So it is the simple work done which is required to increase the area of a liquid by 1 square centimeter. And when we go through the diagram, you can see there are two molecules, molecule number A and molecule number B. Molecule A, which is situated at the interface, and molecule B, which is situated into the bulk of the liquid. So the resulting force on molecule A is not zero. is inward directed force. And the resulting force on molecule B is zero, so molecule B can freely move. So a water molecule which is remote from the interface is surrounded by other water molecules, thus having a resulting net attractive force on the molecule of zero. And molecule at the interface, like molecule A, has a force acting upon it from the gas lying above the interface and water molecules lying below the interface. So when there are two types of forces on the molecule number A, so it will feel some tension and we have to do some extra work to carry out the molecule from bulk to the interface. And this work done is defined in terms of surface free energy. So surface free energy is again to move molecules from the inner layers to the surface. Means when we want to move the molecules from the bulk side of the liquid to the interface or surface, some work needs to be done against the surface tension. Each molecule near to the surface possesses more potential energy as compared to the molecules in the bulk of the liquid. So when we compare the molecule A and molecule B, we can compare the potential energy as molecule A, which is situated or oriented at interface, having the more potential energy as compared to the molecules B, which is situated in the bulk of the liquid. So if surface of liquid increases, the energy of liquid also increases. So its energy is directly proportional to the size of the free surface. It is called as surface free energy. So surface free energy is directly related with the size of the free surface. So each molecule of the liquid has a tendency to move inside the liquid from the surface and with minimum surface free energy. As I already told you that the energy is related with the stability, and every system in the universe want to stabilize. So it want to have minimum surface free energy. So each molecule of the liquid has a tendency to move inside the liquid or in the bulk of the liquid from the surface and with having the minimum surface free energy. So at equilibrium, the surface free energy of a system must be at a minimum level. The liquid droplets tend to assume a spherical in shape since a sphere has the smallest surface area per unit volume. So if you question asked why the liquid droplets tend to assume spherical in shape, so because of the spherical particle or sphere has the smallest surface area per unit volume. Now to increase the surface of the liquid, work must be done against the surface tension. So mathematically, it can be defined like the gamma equal to Fb by 12, where the gamma is the surface tension and L is the length of the movable bar. So when we go through the three-sided wireframe experiment, as we discussed in previous lecture, we can define the value of surface tension. So surface tension is Fb by 12. So Fb is the force required to break the film will be equal to the gamma multiplied by 2L. So the physical meaning of these units is shown below. So gamma into 2L into dx is work equal to force into length. So gamma L dx, where the gamma is the surface tension, L is the length, and dx is the displacement or distance which is traveled by the soft film. So when we go through the three-sided wireframe experiment, where the wireframe is dipped into a soap solution, a soap film is formed, and then when we hang a mask on the soap film, some of the film can be show their displacement from their original position, and it can be denoted in terms of dx. So work equal to gamma dA, where dA is equal to the L dx, denotes the change in the area. So the work W required to create a unit area of surface is known as surface free energy per unit area, and the unit of this surface free energy per unit area will be ergs per centimeter square in CGS system. We already know erg is equal to dyne into centimeter. It is equivalent to the surface tension gamma. So because the W is equal to gamma multiplied with delta A, where delta A is the change in the area and gamma is the surface tension. So it is equivalent to the surface tension gamma. Thus, the greater the area of interfacial contact between the phases, the greater will be the free energy. For equilibrium, the surface free energy of a system must be at a minimum. So liquid droplets tend to assume a spherical shape. As I told you, sphere has the smallest surface area per unit volume. So raindrops or liquid droplets always tend to assume a spherical shape because the spherical particle or spheric sphere has the smallest surface area per unit volume. Now, surface in tension is work per unit area to produce the new surface. And when we go through the thermodynamics in terms of Gibbs free energy, of thermodynamics, surface tension at constant temperature and pressure is increase in Gibbs free energy per unit area. And it can be written like the gamma is equal to dg by dA Tp, where dg is the Gibbs free energy, dA is the change in area, T and P is the temperature and pressure respectively. Now the next concept of surface tension is the how can we express the surface tension through the pressure difference across the curved interfaces. If the interface or surface is curved, then how can we define the surface tension? So surface tension can be also expressed in terms of the pressure difference. So for this purpose, we have to consider a soap bubble having a radius r. So when we consider a soap bubble, as we go through the diagram, we can find this the, you can see the diagram here. In previous slide, we already see the diagram here. This is the soap bubble where the radius of the bubble is r, and if the bubble is constrict, the radius will be decreases by dr. So consider a soap bubble having a radius r. The total surface free energy, because the W is equal to gamma delta A. So the total surface free energy can be written mathematically is like the W is equal to 4 pi r square multiplied with gamma, where 4 pi r square is the area and gamma is the surface tension. Suppose that bubble is caused to shrink so that its radius decreases by dr. So initially the radius of soap bubble was r, but as the bubble is shrink, then the radius will be decreases by dr. Now final surface free energy after the shrinking of the bubble will be written like the W is equal to 4 pi r minus dr whole square multiplied with gamma. So r minus dr is the now the radius of the soap bubble after the shrinking. And final surface free energy, when we solve this equation, we can obtain like the W is equal to 4 pi r square gamma minus 8 pi gamma dr multiplied with dr plus 4 pi gamma dr whole square. So a minus b whole square equal to a square minus 2ab plus b square. So when we follow this formula, we can explore the equation and find out the final surface free energy. And when we compare dr with r, so dr is very small compared to the radius r, so the change in surface free energy will be minus 8 gamma dr multiplied with r, where r is the radius of the bubble before shrinking and dr is the decrement in the radius after shrinking of the bubble. Gamma is the surface tension of solution. So the change in surface free energy will be equal to minus 8 by gamma dr multiplied with r. Now the negative sign indicates the shrunken of the area. The opposite change or opposite energy term depends on the pressure difference across the wall of the bubble. Pressure is already known as the force per unit area. So once the energy term, opposite energy term, which depends on the pressure, when we express mathematically, it can be written like this. So you already know the force per unit area can be defined as P or pressure. So the work change brought about by decrement or decrease in radius dr is W equal to delta P 4 pi r square multiplied with minus dr. So the 4 pi r square is the area and delta P is the pressure difference inside and outside of the soap bubble. So at equilibrium condition, this must equal change in surface free energy term. And so when we take the both of the equations, we can simply obtain the final formula for pressure difference from this equation. So 8 minus 8 pi gamma dr multiplied with r is equal to delta p 4 pi r square minus dr. And when we simplified this equation, we can obtain the formula delta P equal to 2 gamma by R. So with this equation, we can obtain a conclusion that the radius of the bubble is inversely proportional to the pressure difference. And its radius decreases, pressure inside the bubble increases. So W is equal to F by dx. So gamma 12 dx or 2 gamma multiplied with dA, where the gamma is the force per unit length, or it can be simply defined as surface tension. So there are two different concepts. So work can be defined as force into displacement. Now, after the discussion of surface tension in terms of pressure difference across the curved interfaces. Now we have to proceed for factors affecting superficial or interfacial tension. Although there are so many factors, but we have to discuss only some of the important factors which affects the superficial and interfacial tension. One is the internal factor, and the second is defined, categorized as external factors. So factors influencing surface and interfacial tensions are two types. One is the internal factors. The second one is the external factors. When we go through the internal factors, the internal factors are intermolecular attractive forces. So surface tension or interfacial tension is highly affected by the intermolecular attractive forces. And the examples are given is water, benzene, carbon tetrachloride. Then external factors, when we go through the external factors which affects the superficial or interfacial tension like the electrolytes, surface active agent, temperature, etc. So what are the effects of different external factors? Now let us see here. Electrolytes, after addition of the electrolytes in solution or particular system, they increases the surface tension. And surface active agents or surfactants are the chemicals when we add the surface active agents to these systems, they can decrease the superficial tension or interfacial tension. So surface active agents decreases the value of surface tension. And the very important factor is temperature increases, the surface tension of liquid decreases due to the enhanced kinetic energy that becomes cohesive force. At critical temperature, the surface tension value will be zero. So as the temperature increases, the kinetic energy of the molecules also increases, and that becomes the cohesive forces, and the surface tension value will be decreasing. So always mention the temperature when we are expressing the surface tension in terms of dyne per centimeter, or whether it may be in Newton per meter, because the temperature is very important factor which affects the surface tension of liquids. So these are the different factors which affect the superficial and interfacial tensions. Now, the next part of this lecture is the measurement of superficial and interfacial tension. So, although there are so many methods available in laboratory as well as in industry for measurement or determination of superficial and interfacial tension. So, methods for measurement of surface and interfacial tensions are as follows. First method is known as capillary rise method, which is very important method. Second method is ring method or ring Dunoy tensiometer method. Third method, which is widely used in laboratory practice, this is known as stelmometer method or drop weight method. The next method may be bubble pressure method. And in laboratory, generally the students are used probe count method. With the help of stelmometer, we can determine the surface tension of given liquid sample with the help of probe count method. So there are so many methods available, whether it may be capillary rise method, ring tensiometer method, drop weight method, or bubble pressure method. So which method should be used? So there may be a question mark. So the choice of the method for measurement of or determination of surface and interfacial tension depends on these factors. So the following factors: whether surface or interfacial tension is to be determined. So it depends on which type of surface tension or interfacial tension we have to determine. So we can choose or we can select the particular method for superficial as well as for interfacial tension. Then the accuracy desired. So which type of accuracy or what level of accuracy is required in our sample determination. So it also affects the choice of the method for measuring surface and interfacial tension. And third one factor is the size of the sample. So the size of the sample also a very important criteria for selection of particular method for measurement of surface and interfacial tension. Now let us see first method. This is the capillary rise method. As per the name given, the capillary rise method. We have to use the capillary tube which is placed in a liquid, and it rises up the tube a certain distance. So when we put a capillary tube inside the liquid in a beaker or in a container, so the liquid will rise up in the tube up to a certain distance. By measuring this rise, it is possible to determine the surface tension of the liquid. It is not possible to obtain the interfacial tension using the capillary rise method. So this is the principle of capillary rise method. When a capillary tube is placed in a liquid, it rise up the tube a certain distance, and by measurement of this rise, we can determine the surface tension of particular liquid sample. And don't confuse between the superficial tension and interfacial tension. As I already told you in previous lecture that superficial tension or surface word is generally used for two different phases, and when the two different phases are in the liquid form, or if the two liquids are immiscible, the boundary between two of them is known as interface. Although the interface and superficial surface word is synonymously used, so similarly surfacial tension and interfacial tension words can be similarly used. But as a pharmaceutical students, you have to know about the major difference, or when we use the word interface or when we use the word surface. All the surface are interface, but when we are using the two immiscible liquids, generally we have to use a common word. This is the interface, and the tension is interfacial tension. So in capillary rise method, by measurement of the liquid rise, or by measuring this rise, it is possible to determine the surface tension of the liquid. So again, there are two type of forces which works on this experiment. One is the cohesive force, or force of cohesion, which is the force existing between the like molecules in the surface of a liquid. And the second one is the force of adhesion. It is the force existing between the unlike molecules, such as that between a liquid and the wall of a glass capillary tube. So cohesive force exists between the like molecules, and adhesive force or force of adhesion that exists between the different molecules like the liquid molecules and the wall of a glass capillary tube. And when the force of adhesion is greater than the force of cohesion, the liquid is said to be wet the capillary wall, then spreading over it, and then rising in the tube. So this sentence is very, very important for understanding the rising, wetting, spreading. So all the different mechanism like wetting, spreading, and rising follow the similar situation or similar condition. When the force of adhesion is greater than the force of cohesion, then liquid will wet the capillary wall, the liquid will spread over the another liquid, and it also rise in the tube. So now mathematically we can try to find out the formula for measurement of superficial or interfacial tension. So if a capillary tube of inside radius r is immersed in a liquid that wets its surface, the liquid continues to rise in the tube due to the surface tension until the upward movement is just balanced by the downward force of gravity due to the weight of the liquid. So when we consider a case of capillary tube which is dipped into a liquid, there are two type of forces. One is the due to the surface tension, and the second one is the force of gravity. And upward movement of the force is due to the surface tension. It is wholly responsible for movement of the upward movement of the liquid in the capillary tube, and it is just balanced by the opposite force or downward force of gravity due to the weight of liquid. So there are two type of forces acting on the capillary tubes liquid. Now, the upward component of the force, it is resulting from the surface tension of the liquid at any point on the circumference is given by A equal to gamma cos theta. Thus, the total upward force around the inside circumference of the tube is A equal to 2 pi r gamma cos theta, where theta is the contact angle between the surface of the liquid and the capillary wall, and 2 pi r is the inside circumference of the capillary. And for the water, the angle theta is insignificant. The liquid weights the capillary wall, so that cos theta will be unity. So when we go through the different components which are situated on the circumference, we can find out a one term A equal to 2 pi r gamma cos theta. Similarly, when we go through the downward force of gravity, which is written like F equal to mg. So force will be written like the mass into acceleration. So F is the force, m is the mass, and g is the acceleration due to gravity. So the downward force of gravity is written as mass into acceleration, and mathematically is given by pi r square h rho minus rho 0 multiplied with g plus w. So pi r square in this equation is the cross-sectional area. H is the height of the liquid column to the lowest point of the meniscus. And rho minus rho 0 is the difference in the density of the liquid. So rho minus rho 0 is the difference in the density of the liquid and its vapor pressure P0. And G is the acceleration of gravity. The weight of the liquid upper part of the meniscus, it is expressed by W. The opposing force are in equilibrium. So the downward force of gravity is written like the pi r square h rho minus rho 0 g0 plus w. So it is the downward force of gravity, and at maximum height where the opposing forces are in equilibrium, where the 2 pi r gamma cos theta will be equal to the pi r square h rho minus rho 0 g plus w. So when the upward force of surface tension is equal to the downward force of gravity, it can be written like the 2 pi r gamma cos theta is equal to pi r square h rho minus rho 0 g plus w, where the pg rho 0 theta and w are very less, so it can be disregarded. So surface tension can be calculated as 2 pi r gamma equal to pi r square h rho g, and the surface tension gamma will be simplified as 1 by 2 RH rho g, where R is the radius of the capillary tube, H is the height of the liquid column to the lowest point of the meniscus, rho is the density of the liquid, g is the acceleration due to gravity. So try to solve this numerical first. A sample of chloroform rose to a height of 3.67 centimeter at 20 degrees centigrade in a capillary tube having an inside radius of 0.01 centimeter. Now, what is the surface tension of chloroform at this temperature? The density of chloroform is given as 1.476 gram per centimeter cube. So you can try to solve this numerical, which is based on the determination of surface tension. Height is given here, temperature is given here, inside radius is given here. The density of chloroform is also given here. So this is the solution here. So when we go through the formula, gamma equal to 1 by 2 RH rho g. So when you put the values here, gamma is equal to 1 by 2, 0.01 centimeter into 3.67 centimeter into 1.476 gram per centimeter cube, which is the density, and 981 centimeter per second square, which is the acceleration due to gravity. So gamma will be equal to 26.6 gram per second square or 26.6 dynes per centimeter. So this is the solution of the numerical given. So numericals can be asked in examinations also. So you can use the formula gamma is equal to 1 by 2 RH rho g for determination of surface tension. Now proceed for second method, which is known as ring tensiometer method or ring Dunoy tensiometer method. So for measuring superficial and interfacial tensions, it can be used. The first method can be used for measurement of surface tension only, but the second method, which is ring tensiometer method, which is based on the use of tensiometer apparatus, it can be helpful to determine the surface tension as well as the interfacial tension. Now, what is the principle of ring tensiometer method? So, in ring tensiometer method, the principle of the instrument is that it depends on the fact that the force necessary to detach a platinum iridium ring immersed at the surface or interface is proportional to the surface or interfacial tension. So the principle of the instrument is like the force required to detach or to separate out a platinum iridium ring which is immersed at the surface or interface is directly proportional to the superficial or interfacial tension. So we have to note down the force, and when we determine the force necessary to detach this platinum iridium ring, which can be shown in this diagram. So you can see here is there is a ring tensiometer methods. Apparatus of ring tensiometer. Dunoy ring tensiometer is given in this slide. So there is a calibrated dial here. So on the calibrated dial, we can note down the reading here. So there is a platinum iridium ring also given here. So we have to put this sample. We have to first take the sample and then put the ring tensiometer, and then we have to determine the force necessary or force required to separate out this platinum iridium ring which is immersed at the surface or interface, which will be directly proportional to the superficial or interfacial tension. So the force of detachment can be recorded in terms of dynes on a calibrated dial. Surface tension is given by gamma equal to F by 2 pi R1 plus R2, where the F is the detachment force and R1 and R2 is the inner and outer radii of the ring. So this is the very simple method which is based on the use of tensiometer. It can be used for surface as well as for the interfacial tension. So when we go through the diagram, can be seen here in this PPT. There is a ring and the force required to separate out, to detach this platinum iridium ring. And when we use the formula gamma equal to dial reading in dynes, divide by 2 into ring circumference and correction factor beta. So correction factor due to the because of the ring may be made by different materials or different uh, radius or different wire. So we can to use the another term correction factor. So simplified formula for determination of surface tension with the use of ring tensiometer is gamma is equal to dial reading in dynes divided by 2 into ring circumference multiplied with correction factor beta. So a correction factor is necessary because the simple theory does not take into account certain variables such as the radius of the ring, the radius of the wire used to form the ring, and the volume of liquid raised out of the surface. So due to these variables like the radius of the wire and the material of the wire and the volume of the liquid raised out of the surface, we have to use the correction factor beta in the formula. Errors as large as 25% may occur if the correction factor is not calculated and applied. Now, on the basis of the study material we discussed, there are some of the questions. So these are the very simple questions or multiple choice type of question. I'm reading one by one, and you have to give the note down the answers of different questions. The first one is the what is the main result of adding surfactant into a liquid composed of two immiscible phases such as oil and water? Option A, B, and C and D. There are four options. So you have to think the answer and note down it. The second question is the water rises through a height h in a capillary tube of internal radius r. If T is the surface tension of the water, then the pressure difference between the liquid level in the container and the lowest point of the concave meniscus will be A is given as T by R, B option is given as 2T by R, C option given as R by T, and D is given as R by 2T. So you have to give the answer. First think the capillary tube which having the internal radius R and the surface tension can be expressed in terms of T, capital T here, and the liquid or water rises through a height in this capillary tube having the internal radius R. So you have to give the formula for the surface tension. Now the next question is the angle of contact between a glass capillary tube of length 10 centimeter and the liquid is 90°. If the capillary tube is dipped vertically in the liquid, then the liquid will, A option is given as will rise in the tube, B option is given will get depressed in the tube, C option is that we will rise up to 10 centimeter in the tube and will overflow, and D will neither rise nor fall in the tube. So it is based on the angle of contact between the glass capillary tube which having the length 10 centimeter and the angle is given as 90°. So if the capillary tube is dipped vertically in a liquid, what happens? So you have to think the answer based on the capillary rise method and give the answer. The next question is based on the superficial tension or surface tension. Like when there are no external forces, the shape of a liquid drop is determined by option A is given here, surface tension of the liquid, B is given here, density of liquid, C is viscosity of liquid, and D is the temperature of air only. So when there are no external forces, the shape of the liquid can be depends on the which factor or which physical parameter. As I already discussed in lecture, we have to give the answer. The next question is the surface tension of liquid is independent of the temperature of the liquid, area of the liquid surface, nature of the liquid surface, impurities present in the liquid. So surface tension of liquid is independent of the temperature of the liquid or area of the liquid or nature of the liquid or impurities present in the liquid. So as I discussed in this lecture, there are so many factors which affects the surface tension. So first we have to think it and then give the answer. So these are the different topics. Now spreading coefficient will be discussed in our next lecture. But just for introduction, we have to discuss about the spreading coefficient in very simple form. Then we will discuss spreading coefficient in very detail in our next lecture. So when a liquid such as oleic acid is placed on the surface of other liquid like water, it will spread as a film if the adhesion force is greater than the cohesive force. So as I discussed adhesion force or cohesive force. There are two types of forces which works on the molecule which are situated on the interface or surface. So when the force of adhesion is greater than force of cohesion, then there will be the spreading, rising and wetting of the liquid. So for spreading is a very important condition which is required that the adhesion force should be greater than the cohesive force. And the term film applies to a duplex film as opposed to the monomolecular film. Duplex films are sufficiently thick so that the surface and interface are independent by one another. So spreading coefficient or spreading required very important condition that the force of adhesion should be greater than the force of cohesion. So we will discuss the spreading coefficient in very detail in our next lecture. So the references for our today's lectures. So you can go through the Martin, you can go through the Subramaniam book, or you can go through the different another writers' physical pharmaceutics book. So you can obtain the different informations regarding the today's topic. So in summarized form, we discussed in our today's lecture about the what are the surface tension in terms of the pressure difference across the curved interfaces. Then we discussed about the what are the different methods for determination or measurement of superficial tension as well as the interfacial tension. Then we discussed about the factors affecting surface tension, and lastly we define the spreading coefficient. So these are the content of today's lectures. So please go through these references and read out all these topics in very detail. Okay, thank you.